Hi, this is Jason from Horrific Nightmares, and it's time for a positive spin. Today, we're going to be talking about I Know Who Killed Me. Now, my relationship with this, I remember the time and period that this came out. I wasn't really interested in seeing it in the movie theaters because I was so oversaturated. I think the whole world was oversaturated with Lindsay Lohan and her behavior and her legal issues. But I mean, you really can't deny, and I think that's the reason why she has, well, why she kind of landed on her feet later on in her life, that she was extremely talented. So I got this when it came out. I found it at a thrift store. I've had this for a long time, and I watched it once. I liked it enough, and really haven't returned to it until Joe and I decided to do it for Positive Spin because he picked up the Blu-ray at a thrift store. Now, this got a 3.6 on IMDb, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. And I'm going to tell you why, because we're going to do a positive spin on I Know Who Killed Me. Now, first and foremost, I do like this film. And this actually may be the hardest positive spin that I've ever tried to do. And it's not because I don't like the film, I do. I think it's because I kind of understand why people don't. Um, Let me explain. As I said before, I think the world was oversaturated with her at the time, and the time definitely played a big part in why this didn't do well. So, let me get to what I liked about the film, and then we'll talk a little bit about aspects of the film. Because unfortunately, being a murder mystery, and I'm going to say it, it doesn't fit the Giallo rules, but this is a Giallo in every sense of the word. I do like Lindsay Lohan in this. I like the high school setting. I also like the serial killer aspect of the film. I think it's very clever. And even though it's underplayed, it does go with the rest of the film. The cast is really good, really solid. You have Julia Ormond, of course, Lindsay Lohan. You have Neil McDonough. You have two housewives. Garcelle, I believe her last name is Bouveau, um, and Kenya Moore, who was actually a former Miss USA. I think the duality is interesting. Unfortunately, I really can't go into that any further for risk of spoiling the film, I guess. The colors resemble that of a Giallo, and this movie, like I said, is basically a Giallo without following the one rule that you kind of need for it to be a Giallo, either an Italian director or it being shot in Italy. It doesn't follow that, but yeah, I'll get to that later. The gore is really good in this film, very brutal, and I love the stained glass coffin at the end. There is something about that for me that is just so classy that I've always liked that in films. Even H2, uh, Rob Zombie's H2. The glass coffin. This one's a stained glass coffin, and it's really, really cool. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about the film. I do like a lot more about this film, but I feel like it's little bitty things that you kind of have to see the movie in order to understand. And I don't want to get into a plot because we don't do plot synopsises in positive spin. So at the time, Lindsay Lohan was going through a lot of legal issues and a lot of behavioral issues, and that was played out on the television. I just remember the time. I remember even talking to Joe about it before I read all the IMDb trivia because I just remember that time being so sick and tired of hearing about her. Is she a talented actress? Yes, she was like the it thing until she burned down her castle. And like I said, I was so sick and tired of hearing about it. And it's a shame that this movie did not do better. And I think a lot of it has to do with what Joe and I talked about. Now, this is something that Joe said, and it clicked for me. It absolutely clicked for me. It was spot on. This movie does not fit in a little box so everybody can access it. This is a movie that has um, the teeny bopper sort of thing that she was known for, but it has it in small amounts. So you can't really rely on that audience because they're not going to like it. You have the adult side of it with um, Lindsay Lohan also playing a pole dancer and having a no nudity clause in her contract. And I can tell you right away why she did that. In a way, it was extremely smart because when you're on trial, they look at every little thing in your life. And I think if she had done nudity in that film, I think it would have looked bad for her in the courtroom. I think she played on her Disney clean image as best as she could because, of course, her behavioral issues and the fact that she was getting into trouble a lot more than she should have been. And like I said, I think she played into her Disney um, clean image in order to get mercy from the court, which, like I said, I think is very smart. And she's done nudity in later films, so if you really needed to see her that bad, you can watch The Canyons or you can watch. I'm trying to think of another movie she did nudity in. For some reason, my mind is blanking, but she's done nudity in other films. So I also think this is where Joe and I differ a little bit. This has an alternate ending. Joe likes the alternate ending better. I like the real ending better. Um, for one reason, I think it explains more. Stylistically, I like the alternate ending better because it's more to my liking as a fan of Giallo films. But yeah, this movie actually has a lot to offer. And as much as I understand why people don't like it, it also kind of surprises me because it's a it's a really good murder mystery when you watch the film as it is. I think even though this has kind of gotten a little bit of a cult status along the way, it did really well in Blu-ray and DVD sales when it came out. Even though the movie was a financial disaster when it came out, um, yeah, I don't think it'll ever be as popular as a lot of other murder mysteries of that time or murder mysteries of the past. Excuse me. For the simple fact that it's a movie that you have to pay attention to the entire time. You can't be messing around on your phone. You can't be doing other things. If you don't pay attention to this film, you're not going to understand what's happening. So I think that's a big problem in today's society. Yeah. But I do like this film a lot. There is a lot of positives to this film, and the the negative people seem to cry the loudest. And I know I said that in my last positive spin as well, but keep that in mind. Um, it's a shame. It really is. Like people like myself who have always liked this film, I just don't really say anything about it. But if somebody doesn't like something, they're on social media 24/7 spouting about how it's uh, dumpster fire and hot garbage and all that kind of crap. But watch it for yourself and decide for yourself. Don't listen to people. Um, I find that to be the way things should be more and more these days. So, like I said, watch it or don't, but don't forget to watch Joe's positive spin for I Know Who Kills Me. And remember, guys, physical media matters. And until next time, peace.